Star Wars Newsnet Live is back, baby, on this Thursday night, March 13th. Happy spring break to everyone, even though most people don't have spring breaks anymore, but I do as a teacher. And let me tell you, Luke, I am living a life of luxury right now, knowing I do not have to go to school tomorrow. It's a good feeling. I feel alive. I feel fresh, rejuvenated, even though I'm exhausted, but Star Wars needs to be discussed this evening. There's another living, breathing person, right? You across from me.
Let's go.
Not me talking to myself. I have this weird bump on my hand, which I'm kind of messing with. That might be too much information. It's kind of bothering me though. Hopefully I don't have the plague. Because I need to live to see Andor season 2, or I don't know, they'll be hell to pay.
That sounds bad. And it also reminds me of the Phasma novel, where someone starts out with a little infection and then they suddenly burst. So here's to hoping you don't burst and die. Okay.
Well, what a great way to start off our Thursday night show. I think, when was the last time we talked Star Wars? Because weren't on it's like the last couple live shows, I feel like, maybe.
And I definitely missed the last one, but I think it was on the
2
one
weeks
before
ago.
that.
It's been a couple
like
weeks.
2 weeks, yeah. And we haven't had a
Because we weren't
timeline
able to
show.
do we didn't do timeline last week either, because Out of the Shadows is taking me a little bit longer to reread than I'd like to admit. I just cannot. That book actually is better, I think, right now, when I'm rereading it, knowing the context of everything else that takes place in the High Republic, because some of the little nuggets that it drops are more. But you know how Bad Batch feels really cool sometimes in season 1, because you're seeing all the characters you love, but then you realize that this show shouldn't be about all the characters I've already loved before. It should be about this Bad Batch. And that's kind of what Out of the Shadows is sometime, where it's like it name drops Dalna. It has this cool little lightsaber moment with Avar, but it's like, I'm not reading this book for that or the things that happened in phase 2. Like, I'm reading this book for this story, and this story isn't necessarily one of the better ones out there.
That's a really fair assessment. I will say that I have finished it on the second reread via audiobook, and I did like it better. But it's still not like one of the top stories in the High Republic. But yes, yeah, Bad Batch included.
Oscar says that I should enjoy my well-deserved break. I will. My sister's coming into town. We are going to watch basketball and work out and cook some food, and that's it. That's all I'm doing. That and homework for grad school, because I'm just going to chill. That's the kind of break I would love. But not having spring break till mid-April, like Oscar here, sounds horrible. How long is your spring break? I'm curious what your spring breaks are like over there. I'm actually really curious, because mine's a week. There's in Indianapolis, where you live, Luke, you guys get 2-week spring breaks, which when I found out about that, I was floored. Luke. I was stunned.
It's nice being up here in the north. Hey, it's also a punishment being
shitty weather
north with snow. So yeah, you're not even guaranteed good weather on your spring break. So
I mentioned before we get into Andor, because there's a lot to talk about Andor. We're talking everything that Tony Gilroy brought up. They had the live stream today, which was fun. I haven't got to watch it. I was watching some of the live tweets that were coming in from Nate was handling with the Star Wars Newsnet account. It was fun just to see Star Wars, I think, embracing new ways of marketing. They're going on these YouTube lives. They've had other, avenues to release. The trailer even had the music, which didn't go down with everyone, but they're showing we're going to do different stuff here. We think we got something good. Maybe we're changing. We're going to get into it. We're going to character spotlight Mon Mothma this week. We're going to have a different character spotlight for some of the main people of Andor moving forward. Not that we're not going to talk about all the characters each week, but we're going to mainly focus in on Mon Mothma specifically, dive into every avenue of this character, her potential arc, what we're excited to see, what we're hoping not to, what we're nervous about, all of those things we're going to get into with her. But before, I mentioned Bad Batch just a minute ago, just offhand. And it makes me want to have just a quick Bad Batch discussion, because we're over a year now, essentially, or from Bad Batch season 3 being out and wrapping up here soon. And my question to you, because Bad Batch season 3 would have concluded in what, a month essentially. So something like that. My question to you is: we're over a year now. We've sat with this conclusion for a while. We've sat with this series for a little while. Where are, when you think back on the Bad Batch? 2 questions: favorite batch member, a year removed, like favorite batch member, and which is there like a single like episode or 2 that stands out to you that this is the episode that you remember the most? It doesn't have to be the most important episode, but is there just one that maybe stands out a little bit more to you than others?
Man, Bad Batch was. We've talked about it quite a bit on the podcast, but it just grew. Season 1 to season 3, like grew into itself. I love the entirety of the show, and so my favorite character from the show, I like how they all work together. And if I had to pick one out, I'm gonna say I like Wrecker. He's kind of just the brute dumb force. Yeah, but he definitely is just hard set in his archetype to even start out with in the Clone Wars and then in his own show.
Right.
But I think he grows quite a bit. They all grow a lot. He grows quite a bit. He comes up with plans by the end. He's really thinking at the end. And he's such a
he's really thinking at the end. He wasn't thinking. Now he's thinking.
Honestly, honestly, like I think I just love his simple nature of like he loves Gongi, he loves Omega like like an uncle, like a brother. He's great. I love him. I also love his blaster, the repeating blaster. He's got the coolest weapon.
He has the coolest weapon.
And he's super strong. I just love his versatility. I love him.
Okay. If I was picking one, I see Wrecker. I feel like it's such a good one from the standpoint of, it's not the typical, most people might gravitate towards the 2 that I'm going to mention, which is like I'm torn between Crosshair and Omega. Part of it, I think part of my allure with Crosshair is 2 things, is that his voice that D. Bradley Baker does for Crosshair is so much different than any voice of the clones, because all the Bad Batch have very distinctive voices. They have very distinctive ones, because they're different. They're a very different group. But Crosshairs is just the one that sticks out the most, in my opinion. Just the way it's like that little raspy, lower toned. But I have to go with Omega, because she's just the heart and soul of that group. And my snappy self, maybe it's because I'm a teacher, I just gravitate sometimes towards the heart and soul of a group, like the innocent child that becomes this absolute grade A badass warrior girl that ends up joining the rebellion. Like that, for me, is the one that I would have to pick. I would have to pick Omega. And if I was picking episodes,
I think I have mine too.
What would yours be?
I don't remember the title of it, but I believe it's in season 2 when they team up with Fee Genoa, and they go to this ancient, like it looks like it's Zepho.
I literally this knew that you were going to bring up
this treasure hunt. I love it. They got to learn to trust each other. It was
like this whole Indiana Jones type clone story.
Yeah.
Tie-ins to Fallen Order, but not necessarily direct tie-ins to Fallen Order, because they didn't say anything, but it felt like it. I knew you were gonna pick. I was sitting here when
this is why you brought me on to the podcast. This is why you brought me on.
I just knew it, and I love the fact that I knew it. I ironically have the same exact one as one of our comments here, which is the episode with Omega and Tech in the cave. And seeing as Omega is my favorite, it's just such an interesting one to gravitate to. And this maybe is because Oscar's a teacher and I'm a teacher. I don't know. because there was this just such a beautiful thing where Omega is struggling so hard with having like Echo be gone, and she doesn't understand how everyone in the group is just moving on, and like, you know, Tech, he's just the guy
Yeah.
that does things and he just keeps going. And it was this beautiful moment where, one, it was the first time in the whole show I felt like we really got to peel back the curtain a little bit on who Tech is and really understand him more. And he had this growth moment with Omega, because like Omega is the character through which we see the character development of most of the other members of the batch. Like they develop through their relationships with her. And we see that with Tech basically saying, just because I don't necessarily show it in the way that you do or a record does not mean that I don't miss Echo all the time. You know, I'm just very different. And Omega gets to learn about what that looks like for others and seeing how different is okay. People experience emotions differently, and it helps her grow, and it helps her, I think, probably ultimately when she joins the rebellion, maybe to be a better leader, a squadron member. And we know that Tech, you know, taught her how to fly, but that relationship was cemented that at that point in the cave. Like that relationship was etched in stone. You know, it's in the cave, and symbolically thinking about how, you know, the setting archetype of a cave being something that typically is used in media where a character will delve inward to themselves to like get a better understanding of themselves, and even sometimes in serious situations like a cave can represent like symbolize like death, and they're coping with a death in a sense. Like Echo is still alive, but in a sense it feels like he's gone, and that there's a hole missing, like as if someone died, and they're having to delve inside into themselves to discover that. And we see what that looks like for both Tech and both Omega, and for them to have that conversation, it's just amazing. It's just amazing. Like that's maybe my favorite episode in the whole show.
Very well put. Yeah. I think the Bad Batch has a lot of deep themes that they put in each episode, or if not every arc. And I think it's really easy to miss them, but like the writers,
Do a great job.
Jennifer Corbett and Brad Rao, like they killed that show.
Finn
They put a
Rao?
lot of good stuff in there. I kind of forget his
Brad
name.
Rao, brother of Finn Rao, is one of the writers
Yeah.
of the Bad Batch. Confirmed. Star Wars Mandalorians have reached this galaxy. Confirmed.
I wonder what you would have said if
Absolutely.
I was like, Sid was my favorite character. She was cool.
Any person that says Sid, they even like Sid. Any person that even says they like Sid, like you're full of crap. Like you are full of nonsense. You cannot tell me. I will take this a step further, and this is stepping out of bounds. Like this is stepping out of bounds. If you like Sid, not saying that you think, because there's a difference between, you know, I can say that I like this character, but I also, you know, hate them for who they are as a character. You know, I freaking, you know, loved like Cersei Lannister as a character. Like I
There we go.
love
Yeah.
Cersei. I love
Yeah.
Cersei. I love Littlefinger as a character in Game of Thrones. I hate Littlefinger though. Like I do not like him
Yeah.
at all. Like I hate him. But oh my goodness, what a great character. Like I understand that like component. But no, Sid sucks in every like element. Like I don't, if you told me you liked Sid, like from I like Sid. Like I cheer for, I love her. You're stupid. Like come on. Like there is no she has no redeemable qualities. Like they have this, and they even
Nothing.
tell you so. Like in the writing, like they even like the way the show goes is she's like sticking her neck out for them for a minute, and then they go, when the going gets tough, she's gonna betray you and all this, and they're still doing it, and you're like, maybe Sid's gonna change. Nope, turns him over multiple times. She kind of turns him over, like multiple times, and then threatens him. It's like this. She sucks. She sucks. She's the
The
worst.
villain of the Riot Racing episode, Malegi the Dawitan, was like Yeah, watch out for her.
And yeah, we all knew it was gonna happen.
Yeah.
No, Sid is terrible, and I can't imagine someone doing that. You know what I mean? Like someone just being
Yeah,
like,
I
"That's my
can't imagine.
favorite
Can't
character."
imagine.
It'd be like someone watching. It is not. This is not even close to the same thing. This is not even close. And I don't want to get into the like. This is we're in like dangerous territory here of because we don't want to tell people who you can like and who you can like or who should be your favorite. But there was like times when someone would tell me they haven't seen Clone Wars, and they would tell me that who's your favorite character in all of Star Wars? And they'd be like, General Grievous is my favorite character in all of Star Wars. And I get that General Grievous is really cool. But if someone's like you don't know anything about they don't know anything about Legends, they've never watched Clone Wars to know some of the cool Grievous arcs that exist there. And all like their only knowledge of Grievous is Revenge of the Sith. But you've seen like all the movies. And like General Grievous is your favorite character. I raised my eyebrows a little bit. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Oh
He
yeah.
has the 4 lightsabers and he's cool and all. But that's your favorite character like of all Star Wars? Not I'm not telling people that Jim Greaves can't be their favorite character. It makes me go like raise an eyebrow when it's like you don't know any Legend stuff. There's no comic. You don't if they don't know any of the other stories because there's a lot of cool Grievous stories out there that canon, non-canon, all that kind of stuff. But if you're just basing off Revenge of the Sith, I do raise an eyebrow going like, that's a take. Like, that's a take. It's yours. You get to have it, but it's something. It's something.
Time to abandon ship.
Like, Darth Vader's exists there, I mean,
yeah.
It's like, or like Darth Maul. Like, I love Darth Maul. I always loved Darth Maul before I even watched it, but I feel like even like General Grievous has more to like lines than Darth Maul does. But I would honestly understand if someone told me Darth Maul was their favorite character more than General Grievous, just based off movies, not all the
I think
shows
so
and comics.
too.
There's so much cool Maul stuff, but because at least Maul has the epic duel, and there's the duel of the fates attached with Maul, and he does actually kill a Jedi Master to give him a little bit more clout. Like we've seen that. I don't know.
Yeah.
We've gotten out of hand here. You started this. You went into Sid, and now we're talking about someone who told me once that General Grievous is their favorite, and it just made me question life a little bit.
That'd be crazy.
What's the most out of pocket Star Wars character? Like if someone were to tell you this is my favorite Star Wars character, that's just out of pocket, but let's take all canon, all books, comics, movies, shows. Like, what's the most out-of-pocket character where if someone said, this is my favorite character in Star Wars, you're not going to question them. You might be like, that's really interesting, but taking in all the interesting things about them, like, sure, like, I could respect that. Like, what's the line? Because it's like someone came up to you and said, my favorite character in Star Wars is Prince Lee Char of Mon Cala. You're looking at them, you're like, get out. You're trolling me. Like, there's no way. Like, you're ridiculous. Like, what is the line?
It's probably one of those animation characters that's like a good character in their arc, but they don't show up outside their arc. Like Lee Char is a really good one.
I don't think so. I can't, like, in all of Star Wars, if someone told you that, you wouldn't raise an eyebrow and be like, no, stop. You're trying. Just if they're only in one arc.
Okay, yeah.
It has to be like a side character that maybe is like, has legends or books about him too, right? Like it has to be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I threw out there Kazuda Xiono, who's got, 2 seasons of his stuff, but like 10 people have watched Resistance. So it's
and we're 2 of those 10 people. We're 2 of the 10 people that have watched Resistance.
He's a cool character, but it's like
I really want to know, like, where's the line? Like what's the line someone tells you, this is my favorite character in Star Wars? You might go, okay, yeah, I see it. It's interesting. What about I'll start throwing some, I'll just start spitballing. Dexter Jetster. He has his stuff at Attack of the Clones. He has some arcs in the High Republic that are pretty fun. Do you dismiss that, or are you like, I could see it? I think I'm dismissing it.
I think I'd still dismiss it. Okay. I'd be like, I love that for you, and I love that, but
But you're trolling me. You've got to be
I
trolling
would
me a little
not.
bit.
Yeah, I'd be like, you're trolling me a little bit. Like
Okay.
that's not real.
What about see, I wanted to say Saw Gerrera, but that to me feels like legitimate. Like that's a legitimate take.
Yeah, I think I
Rogue
wouldn't. I
One,
wouldn't bat an eye at
Andor.
that. Yeah,
Yeah, I wouldn't bat an eye at that. What's so like we need a line below that. We
Captain
need someone
Typho.
but where does Captain
See?
Typho show up in any other Star Wars?
Yeah, that's not. That would be completely.
Other than his moments and I'd be more worried about her than I would about him. Like other than that, doing something rash. What's the line? This is something we need to think about, come back and have like a full-fledged like discussion. Ooh, I have one. I have one for you maybe. Plo Koon.
It's
He
weird because
exists.
if
He exists in the prequels.
Yeah.
We see him die in Order 66. It's a chosen one. There are some books with Plo Koon, like a few, arcs there. And he has plenty to work with in Clone Wars. If someone told you Plo Koon is their favorite character in Star Wars, are you going like, really? But I think do you buy that? Like, I would buy that. I think I would buy that.
I would definitely enjoy our conversation that just opened up because I would want to ask. So, like, you've watched Clone Wars, like, he's got some good stuff there. And, like, I would assume they've really dived into Star Wars mythos and, like, canon. And, like, that's why Plo Koon would be. I would be
the living force.
Yeah, exactly. I'd totally get it. If they told me, like, nah, I've really, like, I've watched, like, a couple Clone Wars episodes and that's really it. And Plo Koon's my favorite character. I'd be like,
no, this is considering that like they are well in all the canon. Like they are like degenerates like us that do this. That's the discussion. Because you could argue Plo Koon because maybe you have a strong attachment to Ahsoka and you're like Plo Koon found Ahsoka, brought her to the temple. He teaches her these lessons. He values he has the connections with the clones. He shows up later in the Clone Wars. He's got some books. You see him die in Order 66.
If you know your stuff, you also know, like, I assume if you're going that deep in it, like we are, you kind of like somehow by osmosis, you pick up the fact that like Dave Filoni loves Plo Koon. And I think that's pretty valid to be like, I like Filoni. And if he likes this guy a lot, I'll like him a lot. Like, I think that adds to the like fire, like adds to the fuel. So it's like, okay, that's fair. Like, throw it in.
Right.
Thank you, Oscar
Tecalote. Maybe Plo Koon is the line. Brigadier General Mieber Gascon is my all-time favorite Clone Wars character. I said it, and I'm owning it. Sure, but all jokes
if you're
aside,
choosing him, then I'm choosing Wag 2.
Right, this is Wag 2, Dr. Neurovindi, of course. No, if that Mieber definitely is below the line, but is Plo Koon? Maybe Plo Koon's the line. We'll leave it there for now. I'm going to come up with a list for next week of characters, and we're going to play a game. We're just going to play the game. We're going to play
hashtag on the line.
On the line, yes. I'll play. We'll just play a game. A purely arbitrary, quite in probably what's the right word I'm looking for? Disrespectful to people, insulting because we're telling them who can and can't be their favorite Star Wars characters. But come on, there's like people out there that have told you this is my favorite movie of all time, or this is my favorite TV show, my favorite character from this, my favorite book. And like I'll be honest, and you raise an eyebrow, you're like, really? That's what you're going. Anyway, I digress. You ready to talk some Andor?
Totally.
Manslayer. Oh my goodness, Manslayer is a great person to talk about this with. So, Manslayer, you're on here. Luke and I have been discussing what is, in terms of if someone told you this person is my favorite character in Star Wars, like what is the line that you are willing to accept that person can actually be their favorite character in Star Wars and they're not just trying to mess with you? We feel like Plo Koon might be the line where if someone said Plo Koon is my favorite character all time in Star Wars, you're like, okay, if you're well versed in all Star Wars, you obviously he is shown in Order 66. There's the element of his arcs in Clone Wars and some comics and books that exist to the Star Wars mythos overall. Like I would probably buy that. But if someone said, my favorite character is Captain Panaka of all time, like you're definitely dismissing that as nonsense. Like there's no way that this can actually be true.
Another one.
Okay, one more, and then
I'd
we'll.
throw Bosk out there. Bosk kind of has like a fandom,
Oh,
and that was even before he had expanded material. Like he doesn't
Bosk
have
is a
any
really good
lines.
one. He shows up in Empire. Like the only time you see Bosk forever.
Yeah.
There's comics that exist with Bosk.
He now is in quite a bit of comics, actually, in
A
the
lot
Bounty
of
Hunters comics
comics.
by Ethan
So if you're
Sachs.
a super comic person, you say that. You have the.
I mean, there's Clone Wars arcs with
You have Clone Wars
young
stuff.
Boba.
I think I'm like you're just trying. I think I'm looking at this person going, you're just trying to sound smart right now. You know what I mean? You're trying to.
Yeah,
You're trying to just say, I know Star Wars. This is my favorite character. You know what
it's
I
like
mean? That's what I
pretentious.
think. It's a little pretentious to say Bosk.
Yeah.
Plo Koon,
Okay. Okay.
maybe it's just because he's a bad guy. And because Plo Koon and Bosk, when you add up all of their stuff, Bosk might
Yeah.
actually be more prominent in the Star Wars universe in terms of overall material. Because it's not like Plo Koon says anything in the prequels. But I think it's just given what Plo Koon stands for as an individual. And
Yeah.
his scenes are a little bit have a little more weight attached to them, maybe. Oh, this is a good one. Before I move on, this might be controversial, but when people tell me their fave is R2D2, I'm like, yes, he is cool, but that's a good one. Someone tells you R2D2 is their favorite character.
Man.
I respect it, but I am
Totally.
but I am a little questioning.
That.
I mean, he's essentially one of our narrators of the show, of the saga.
Yes, and he's right with Anakin for so much of Clone Wars. He is Luke's for so much of the original trilogy. Like, I totally get the answer. I get why you said that, but like,
But he doesn't.
You like R2D2 better. You like R2D2 better than Luke. You're telling me that? Like, that's
tough. That's a tough statement. It's what is it?
Man,
See, we
he has
sound
a lot
like
of personality.
we sound
though.
pretentious having this conversation.
I
Like I am
know,
fully
yeah.
aware of that. I'm okay with it because I think it's just a funny bit. But
It is.
So this is funny. He's like, yeah, is it only about beep beep for you? Like he is the key and all, but your fave? Like, what is your favorite Star Wars quote of all time? Well, I have to quote my favorite character, R2D2, in Return of the Jedi, when he got blasted trying to hotwire to help them break into the shield generator, and he's like, what? Wait, beep, beep, beep. Like, one of those. Like, that was my favorite line in Star Wars history from my favorite character, R2D2. Which, it's one of those things where if R2 quote unquote died, like he got blown up, I would probably feel way worse about R2D2 dying than I probably would have if Lando died. But I would say that like Lando is probably one of my I like Lando more than R2D2 in terms of a character. But if R2D2 got blown up and R2 died, I would probably start crying if R2D2 died, like was destroyed in a movie. If Lando died, I'd be upset. I love Lando as a character, but I don't think I would be nearly as emotional as an R2D2.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, the more that I think about R2, like he has a lot of personality that is on display.
A lot of personality.
And I the more I think about it, the more I get the answer, but I'm still not like championing the answer. I'm like, okay,
I'm still not there.
Okay, but
I want to sit and have a long discussion with this person. Like, I will buy you coffee. Let's go have a chat. I can't believe we talked about that for 15 minutes. Worth it. Every second.
Absolute cinema.
The absolute cinema. Oh my gosh. I have to. This is again. We're going to talk Andor in a moment, but I promise, because I'm so excited to talk Andor. But I had this student. His name is Anthony. Anthony. He's from Brazil. One of my favorite students I've ever taught. This kid, he's like ridiculous. Like, this kid's ridiculous. Every day he comes talk to me. He's like, Mr. Bradshaw, you must let me do what I do because today is my birthday. And the kid's birthday is in November, but he tells me it's his birthday at least once a week to try to get away with something. I'm like, Anthony, it's not your birthday. It's in November. And he goes, but I am Batman. You got to let Batman save the. I have to save the city, and the only way I can save the city is that if you let me go to the bathroom right now. This is like how he. This is basically the conversations that we're having, and he's hilarious. But we had to do these presentations, and he's like showing me his presentation, and what he's gonna do is project it. He's going through each slide, and then the last slide, he goes, "I thought it was over," and he goes, "No, no, no, no," and he set up this little video where it's like a 10-second drum roll. The last thing is like, zzz, and then Martin Scorsese, the meme is up, and it's absolute cinema. So he gives his presentation, and then everyone starts clapping. He's like, and then he goes, "Absolute cinema," and that was his presentation.
Wow. I like him. I like the guy.
It is so good.
That's, man. I like the prominence of that meme. Use it for stuff that you really mean is absolute cinema. Use it for stuff that's crap, and you're like, yeah,
absolute cinema.
Like, I love
absolute cinema. I see two people beefing in the parking lot somewhere. Absolute cinema. So let's talk Andor. We have delayed long enough here. So Tony Gilroy comes out, delivers some really fun interviews this week. Big media push this week as we're just under a month away from Andor being released. But in reality, with Celebration coming up really soon, like we're a month out from Celebration essentially. So people are going to be starting to see Andor in a month, like 3.5. Some people are going to get screeners here in a few weeks. There's going to be the people that go to Celebration that are going to get, some early access to some of these episodes. So we're, 3 to 4 weeks away from, enough people to have seen the first few episodes for there to be some really interesting word of mouth, like moving forward. So a lot to go on here. Some of the key things that I took away from what he was saying was how the Gorman massacre is going to play out over 5 episodes. I thought that was a really interesting takeaway. Let's talk about that for a little while. There was the fact that he said there's going to be a lot of romance in this season, but romance that's going to look absolutely, different for different characters. So I love the fact we're going to see different types of romances in this, or what romance could be in different ways. I'm really excited about that. And then we're going to talk all Mon Mothma, because there was a few things that were said about Mon Mothma that I absolutely was excited about. It's what I really wanted to hear, and where I was hoping the direction of this show was going to go. As you know, like Mon Mothma, I love Mon Mothma. So let's start with the Gorman Massacre, though, and then we'll do Gorman Massacre. We'll do Romance in Season 2, Mon Mothma, and then just hit absolutely any other topic people in the comments or you want to talk about for this evening. But Gorman Massacre is going to be played out over 5 episodes. He confirmed they didn't use the volume at all for this season. These are a lot of practical sets that they are using. And he talked about building something like this. They want to get the most out of it because it's expensive to build these places and have these kind of shots and these scenes and film this way. So, and we know this budget's big. So they wanted to get the most out of it. But the fact that they said 5 episodes, we know these are 3-episode arcs. So this is going to be something that builds. I think we're going to see the early stages of it here at the beginning, and then it culminate at the end of maybe the second arc. But in the fact that he said we're able to do whatever we want with this. So what do you take away just from the fact that Tony Gilroy said 5 episodes of Gorman Massacre?
That really threw me off, because with the news was such a big drop that it's going to be 3-episode drops per week. And so I felt like I made the assumption that things were going to be a very clear cut. The only time you see the Gorman Massacre, for instance, would be those 3 episodes. And so to hear that it's going to be 5 really shakes up my understanding of what is going to be going down. And I really like that. I really don't like knowing what is going to happen in a movie when I watch it, what's going to happen in a show. I don't like spoilers at all. Don't want to know anything. So being this big of a Star Wars fan as we are in the space that we're on, you kind of can't avoid, I know the Gorman Massacre is going to happen. So I know it's there. It's now I know it's going to be, it's good point. It's a prequel show. You do know how it ends, but that doesn't
But we
actually
don't
affect.
know
That's
what
not even
they're
a
going to
spoiler.
do here.
Yeah, yeah,
Just,
exactly.
and I
So
said this, I said that similar vein last week of we know how this all ends, but the way they've threaded the needle here with this show is that we absolutely feel tension every week because we don't know exactly how this happens. The Gorman Massacre for me, I think, when he says over 5 episodes, is that we're going to have spent a lot of time there watching it build and escalate. It's over a year of we're gonna watch these people suffer and
I think
not
we
be
might
able
see
to
the
take it
entirety
anymore.
of it. Yeah,
And
because I
then
think we're
that
gonna start to
episode might
see.
be just an entire massacre type episode. You think the whole episode is
Oh,
just the the carnage, similar to how the prison arc episode built for those few episodes.
yeah,
It built up and up and up, and then the last episode you just had boom, and then they came back with Luthen and boom. This one similar, where we're going to spend a lot of time just showing you what is happening to these people where they can't take it anymore, and when that boiling point gets reached, it's going to just be absolutely, I think it's going to be the darkest, goriest, intense like Star Wars we've ever seen. Like goriest, like graphic Star
yeah,
Wars violence we've ever seen.
yeah. I think it's going to be the most. The word gets thrown out a lot, but like I think it's going to be the most depressing episode of Star Wars that we've had, and that's coming from a Kanan Jarrus fan. Um, I think it's going to be crazy because even in Legends, this story is touched on where Moff Tarkin lands his ship on protesters. Like, should that happen, that's insane. I don't think they're going to one for one adapt that, but like these people are
They
peacefully
might.
protesting and they're going to get gunned down. I mean, they might.
They might do
We
that
don't
in the
know.
show.
Yeah. And that's the
Because
thing
I
about this
don't.
Andor show. They could do it. They
They
totally could.
the whole, we saw last season the stormtroopers just firing on innocent people in the streets of Ferrix. We saw that. I'm not saying that it doesn't
Totally
hit hard again if we don't see that, but the scale has to be bigger than that because
bigger.
there was a lot of people that died on Ferrix, but
Yeah.
that wasn't reaching the halls of Coruscant as the massacre on Ferrix. So if we're building this up for, Mon Mothma's leaving the Senate, she's going public, this thing's going to cause
Yeah, like
shockwaves.
this is the
We're
reason.
going to watch. I think we're going to spend 50 minutes watching Cassian being maybe someone that helped instigate this in some way and feel guilty over it, but also we're watching this feel helpless, and we're going to watch just hundreds of people get absolutely meleeed. I think we're going to see stormtroopers firing on people. I think we're going to see walkers coming in and just absolutely laying waste to people. We could see the Imperial, like, quote unquote, like tanks coming in, running over citizens doing that. It would not surprise me because there's that line that's in the trailer of they're landing ships are landing. Like, we could see a miniature version of Tarkin's like started where there's other ships coming and just smashing individual. I don't think that they're gonna pull punches with that episode at all. Like, especially 5 episodes. It wouldn't surprise me if by Gorman Master they mean some episodes of build up. The 4th episode is boom everything, and then the 5th episode is the aftermath. I think is maybe what we're gonna see when we spend some time there in the aftermath. And Mon Mothma was there. I wonder if the scene in the trailer where Saw Gerrera says, in this moment you have to fight. I wonder if that's right before the Gorman massacre, and he's riling up some people before they go do some
locals.
protests, and there's some rebel activities, riling up some locals because they're trying to, and it backfires, and there's this absolute carnage scene that happens, but that ultimately becomes a pivot point for the rest of the galaxy.
Yeah. I could see Mon Mothma's involvement and Saw's involvement here, both in the Gorman Massacre, but like they're not a coordinated front, which we kind of know from Mask of Fear. Haven't read it, but I kind of know that. where I, big brain, tin hat is on. Mon Mothma's going to see this as a chance to prove to the galaxy that the
Right.
Empire is completely unjust. And that's the
Right.
point that she's trying to make here. And Saw's going to see this and go, oh, this is perfect. I can show them that it's okay to like kill the Empire because of what they're about to do
Of
here. Like they're
course.
gonna use it for such different reasons.
Of
It's gonna be
course.
so juicy. I like the idea that like the explosion of the buildup happens in the 4th episode out of 5, and the
Mhm.
5th one is going to be like the extraction of Mon Mothma from
Mhm.
Coruscant, like Cassian trying to get her out of there. She might repeat the speech from Rebels in that episode. I don't know. I'd be cool with that. I'd love to see it.
Mhm.
Genevieve O'Reilly is so good that I'd love to see her do that.
Mhm.
So it's kind of my take on
And
that.
I think we're not gonna see Yavin until after this. I think we're gonna be building up, and then the
I
Gore
like
Massacre
that.
happens,
Yeah.
and I think they're gonna launch our scenes with Yavin and everything with Mon Mothma's departure. Like, because I don't know exactly the timeline on that stuff, but I think that when Gore Massacre happens and Mon Mothma leaves, I think that's when they'll decide, all right, now we're gonna really dive into the heart of the rebellion and the overall
Yeah.
story. Again, I don't know I'm not someone that's you're the more of the timeline person in terms of like this era, like in the dates. Because for the timeline show, it's like, okay, my job is I'm going to keep us organized on maybe which one we're talking about that week, but you're the one that sets the timeline of what we're talking about each week. And I'm like, okay, now I know what to reread and steer the conversation towards. But you're the one that's like, this happened on this day. You're connecting all those dots. So
Yeah.
when do they officially establish Yavin as a base? Like, is that something that we know the exact date of at this point?
I bet it's out there, and I'm gonna say it's really close to after Mon Mothma has her
It has to
speech.
be
I think she does that in 2 BBY,
BBY, right? Yeah,
and
that's what I'm
so it
thinking.
would be um maybe they've been on Yavin for a year before that, or
Mhm.
right then. I would think. I don't think they're on Yavin for a terribly long time.
I wonder if Tony Gilroy is going to work in something where K2SO was a droid that participated in the Gorman massacre
Oh,
and was damaged, but had similar to how the comic is, like they break in and he has intel that they need, and so they bring him back and he can't decide what if he's gonna fight Cassian and the rebels or not, sort of thing. I wonder if he
yeah,
reworks it a little bit to where it's similar, but he has a part in the Gorham massacre. But this is a droid that slaughtered civilians in a way, wanted to kill Cassian, had some information they needed, so they get him, they wipe his brain, but it still comes back, and they rework him to be there because he said there's going to be some intense stuff going on. I think he really wants to create a banger arc there where maybe this
yeah,
droid that we absolutely all love, and we know he's a reprogrammed Imperial droid. So how great would it be though if a reprogrammed Imperial droid that helps us get the plans to destroy the Empire's ultimate weapon was also someone that was, programmed and forced to do, these unspeakable acts in behalf of that same empire. And this is getting into, you know, droid rights, I guess. But there's something I love about the High Republic when Avon basically gives her droid like her
J6.
programming is written to give that droid free will to write her own programming and become the type of
Yeah,
droid that they want to be. And so I love the idea maybe of Cassian taking him reprogramming him, but clearly K2 is not a normal droid in how snarky he is and how combative he is. I wonder if maybe that we're going to see something there where he gets rewritten to be able to become who he ever droid he wants to be. And we could even have this Alan Tudyk emotional droid arc where he's reconciling with what the past actions of his droid self did, and he's now redeeming himself with the rebellion. I don't know. I could see something like that happening.
yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense. It's kind of it's kind of been a theme that Andor has woven, is that sometimes the strongest fighters for the rebellion are born out of the Empire, born out of
Hmm.
people who are trapped
I love that.
or programmed to be imperial. So um, it would fit. It would be really in line with the storytelling, I think, for that to be K2SO's backstory, which technically in canon we have a comic, but like someone as someone who
Hmm.
absolutely adores the comics, I think it's fine if we kind of just say, let's do something a little different for the show because
Hmm.
they're kind of different levels of
Hmm.
importance. I guess I hurts me to say that. I don't think I want to say
Right.
that, but like
I
we know
understand what you mean, though.
who.
I mean, I
Yeah,
understand what you mean.
yeah.
So, one more thing here before we get into Mon Mothma too. Like, let's talk about romance in Star Wars, romance specifically in
Woo.
Andor, because there are several different romances at play here in this, and I'm really curious to see where your head is at with some of these as we get into the show. Because Tony Gilroy, this will be quick. We'll do more on this as it gets closer. But Tony Gilroy said, there is romances at the heart of this, and we're exploring different types of romances. Clearly, Cassian and Bix are going to be a romantic interest. It's of some kind. You have Vel and Cinta. We're going to explore that a little more. There's the Cyril and Nedra Mira, everything there. So that's awkward, but that's going to be a different kind of, I guess you want to call it romantic involvement. I'll take it a step further and say Mon Mothma and Perrin, they're not, they don't, there's not like this deep love and affection there, but that is her husband. There's a level of family tie that goes into all of this, so there's that. Am I missing? I don't think I'm missing anything. And there could be new characters um that get, I guess you could say Luthen and his love for the rebellion. Maybe is the most romantic thing of all. But Brasso and Bricks, something like there.
Oh
But
my
no,
gosh.
but and seriously though, which romance are you most looking forward to? And how do you think they're gonna handle the different tones that each romance has? Like there's each one has a very different feel to it. Like just like how no relationship's the same. They really do make you feel that in the show.
Um. All right. So I have my answer. I'm going to go with Vel and
This
Cinta,
comment's good.
and I think that one is not very obvious, but that's hilarious. I think it's not very obvious, but I have just
Mhm.
finished my rewatch of The Eye, the first 6 episodes
Mm,
of Andor season 1, and
love it.
so I'm watching
So
these
good.
two, who they're both very committed to bringing down the Empire. They're very committed to
Mhm.
the rebellion. They are committed to each other, but Cinta really has the rebellion first, and Vel is also in her heart.
Mhm.
And so
She
I
says the
think,
rebellion comes first. We take what's left.
yes, yes. And I think it's going to be really interesting to see if their relationship makes it, because we know that the rebellion does. So we know that
Mhm.
Cinta's first love succeeds, but does her second one. And Vel
Mhm.
seems ready to be like, listen, this is getting out of hand. I want you and I to
Mhm.
just cut our losses. I'm really interested with the push and pull, and to see if their love can
Mhm.
wait until the fall of the empire, or if they survive. If
Mhm.
they're, I want to know if they make it or not.
Or, does their love get in the way of them doing their
Does it
jobs? Like, does
hinder? Does it
Vel
hinder the job?
sacrifice the rebellion for Cinta? Like, is there something that happens
Ooh,
there? That could be
yeah,
interesting. That's a good
I
one.
like it.
And I want to talk more about this, as this, like as a whole episode, honestly. For me, I am more interested in like Bix and Cassian. Like I know that maybe that's the easy one to say, but that's the one that instantly draws
Yeah,
me in. I love what
yeah,
you said about
totally.
Bella and Cinta. Like I get that, but I love Bix. Like I love Bix's character. And I think that she's going to be the one that bites the dust in such a way that we see the fully formed rebellion Cassian. that is willing to do absolutely anything for the rebellion. But I also, part of me wonders, and this is some of my prediction stuff that I don't love getting into, but I still feel necessary. Like, I can't help myself. Cassian is so committed to the rebellion. We've all done horrible things on behalf of the rebellion. What if one of those horrible things on behalf of the rebellion is Bix's death? Like, he's responsible for that. Like, he leaves her somewhere. She's helpless. He blows up a ship she's on. He does something where he has to make a choice of, is it my relationship and my love for Bix, or is it the rebellion? And he chooses the rebellion in that moment. And that's a terrible thing that he has done for the rebellion, but that has put him in a position where this is someone who will do whatever he has to for the cause. But maybe that's too dark, and they don't want to go that way of, we don't want our heroes, we're not in the business of sacrificing each other sort of tone, and doesn't want to do that. But something is going to happen to Bix, and I wonder if Cassian's going to have a large part, like role to play there, because that line has always stuck with me from him in Rogue One, is we've all done horrible things on behalf of the rebellion, and we didn't see Cassian do any horrible things on behalf of the rebellion in season 1. It was all about him getting to the point where he's going to join the rebellion, and so that's where. So I think that we need to see one of those horrible things. Like, what is something he does that maybe that crosses a line, but it's because he knows that this is what it takes to fight the Empire. I don't know. Would like to see.
I think that is the probably more accurate way to go, but I'm like trying to create another way that it could be a gut punch in my head. And it's like they have this relationship, it really sparks and it really gets intimate, and maybe Bix is pregnant, and so she goes and hides away, and she's like, come find me after the war. And Cassian's like, I'll do anything to come, like, I'll be right there as soon as this is over.
Like, there's no way Bix is hiding. You know what I mean? Like, there's no way that she's not gonna just go. Yeah.
No.
Well, okay, so Manslayer and I agree on a lot of things. What's his name? Ted?
Tim.
The guy, Tim. Yeah, see,
Tim
I don't
with
remember.
2 M's.
Tim died. I said, oh, dang it. Too bad. So sad, Tim. So sorry for you.
He was also very much not Bix's husband.
Yeah, he wasn't Bix's husband, though. They were just getting to the part where they felt like getting to know each other really well. So they clearly haven't been going on that long. So, yes. Tim, when he died, I was like, oh, shame. I was like Seinfeld. In Seinfeld is, that's a shame. That's a shame.
That's a shame. That's a shame.
All right. Let's deep dive here. Character spotlight, Mon Mothma. Let's get into this because this is the character, this is my favorite character. This is one of my favorite characters here in Andor. Probably number 1 for me. And Genevieve O'Reilly just absolutely nails every single scene in Mon Mothma. Like, she is a fantastic actress. She has the most interesting role to play in the show in season 2 in my eyes. And Tony Gilroy, I feel like, said as much, where he said that of all the characters, she has the hardest road because she has all the stress and anxiety and pressure that every other character does, but hers is all in the public eye. Like, everyone is looking at her. She's a senator. She's prominent. So she has nowhere to hide, where, Luthen has his cover. Cassian is, a spy. These other people are like, they're spies. They have some subterfuge, level there. She's in the open right there, all guns, all blasters pointed at her. There is nowhere to run. She's the first there, and I think she's going to be pushing her daughter, to join, up with Davos Golden's son in order to try to help with this money issue. She's going to make her a speech against the Empire. She has to go on the run against the Empire in a way that no one else is going to have to do. This is a character I cannot wait to see what Genevieve O'Reilly has in store for us, because if we thought that she gave some incredible performances in season 1, I genuinely believe that she can win an Emmy and will be in line to possibly win an Emmy for her performance in the show for this season, because I think she's going to have that much of an elevated role. There's going to be that much going on with her character. It's going to be that intense. The drama here is going to be next level, and I think she's going to nail it. I think she is going to bring people to tears. I think that we are going to be cheering for her like no other. And after this season of this show, to go back on the discussion we had earlier, if someone told you that Mon Mothma was their favorite character in all of Star Wars, I will not bat an eye after this season. That's just what I think is going to happen.
That's good. And that's a good little wrap around there for what we're talking about at the beginning, because should she, and we know she's going to crush season 2. Someone walks up to you and says, Mon Mothma is my favorite character, I'm going to give him a high five, actually.
A kiss on the mouth.
Oh, man. Genevieve O'Reilly has it's like she was born for this role. Again, like in my rewatch, it is actually, I've loved how much more sense it's made now that I know the whole show. And when I'm watching these like pretty intense subterfuge conversations going on with her and Tacoma about maybe you find my political taste a little too strong, and like they're talking really in double speak of like trying to get this off the ground. She needs funds. She can't pull from family funds. Man, is she so good with smile, keep walking. Like she has such control over like her face, her actions, her speech, her tone. Oh my goodness. She is such a good actor, and therefore Mon Mothma becomes an incredible character. So it breaks my heart to know that she's going to have the hardest road of all. But I think that's going to put an incredible performance in front of us on our screens. She's going to be crazy. We saw that dancing scene she has where she's in the ceremonial throwing her hands up dance. I can't wait to see that. And then this show is going to have everything, because there's going to be a massacre. There's going to be dancing and a ceremony of a marriage. Like
he's going to give that speech. We're going to see that speech. He talked about it. Tony Gilroy spoke in some of his, I don't remember which interview it was, but he specifically said that he knows the importance of the Gorman massacre. He knows the importance of Mon Mothma speaking out against the Empire. Like, we sometimes like to joke that Tony Gilroy doesn't care about Star Wars canon, but he does. He's very respectful of what has happened, and I think that it's not like he's a Star Wars nerd trying to go and do all of these things. Like, I think Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni are Star Wars nerds. That they love these little characters and the little missions that they read about or watched as kids, things like that. But Tony Gilroy is more of a nerd from the standpoint of, I want to create the best possible project, the best story, the best show that I can, from the standpoint of, so I'm going to do my research. I'm going to make sure that what I have created doesn't break the mold too much of what's come before, but creates this. And he said this, he wants to create something that's timeless. History repeats itself. We're going to see themes of that throughout the show. He wants to create something that will stand on its own in the world of Star Wars without necessarily being relying on other things to back it up. So he does, I think, take into effect like all the canon that comes before. So I don't have any doubt in my mind that he's going to deliver that rebel speech. I think he understands how important that is, because Mon Mothma is going to be at the forefront of the Empire's attacks against this rebel alliance, because they're going to realize just how organized and real this rebel effort is when she goes public and they're unable to get her. They're starting to see these different pockets form up. We see that in Rebels. Like they're aware of these different, factions that exist
Cells,
and the different cells that are in play. So Mon Mothma's at the front of this.
pockets of
I am
fomenting.
fascinated to see what happens with her family. Like, is Lita a casualty because of all this? Like, Mon Mothma sacrifices her daughter, where she chooses to speak up against the Empire, knowing her daughter's dead, and it's going to cost her daughter her life because they've threatened her and they're going to make good on that promise? Or is it somehow Lita escaped with her? Because that's one. If Lita escapes with her, doesn't break canon in any way. Just because we don't see Mon Mothma's daughter doesn't mean she's not out there.
No, yeah.
What does Perrin do? Is Perrin one of the people
I'm
that
really
starts
curious.
turning her in and giving in? Is Perrin going to have some sort of miraculous redemption arc, in a sense, where he has the chance to do something dirty to Mon and decides not to? And, maybe he does die, but he dies in a way where, he's a scumbag. We don't like him, but you know what? He did the right thing in the end. Like, he didn't turn her in, or he held her secret just long enough for her to escape, or he does allow her to escape and holds him off for a second. And I don't know. I could see that either way.
He could have a redeemable end moment. I am a sucker. Like, I would totally buy into that. And I want that really for him. He's such a loser, stick in the mud. So unlikable in season 1. So I would love to see that person, like, just for the show to tell the lesson that, like, hey, if you're not so great of a person right now, and maybe you know that, it's never too late to turn your life around and like do something good. And that's the story of Star Wars, it's Anakin's story. Like, it's never too late to do a good deed, however big or small. So I would love for Perrin's story to be a microcosm of that. Like, you can do something good here. You don't have to waste your whole life.
I would say there's a non-zero chance that this happens. This thing that Manslayer says. I don't think it's going to happen the way he said right here, but I think that we're going to see something similar. He says it would be great, but very unlikely to have an episode of introspection with Mon Mothma where we see him flashback those deleted scenes in Revenge of the Sith with Bail and Padme. I would love a nod to Padme. I love Padme. No bigger fan of Padme than me. Yeah. I don't think we're going to get something that overt, like in a flashback scene. Very unlikely. I wouldn't be surprised if there is some sort of like nod to Padme, like there was once a senator from Naboo that talked to me of similar things, or there is some nod to her in some way, like maybe like a reference to Padme would be. I don't think that's impossible. Like, I don't think it's impossible. Very unlikely. No, yeah, don't think it's impossible. Would love it. And come on, guys. We know Mothma will push Perrin down the stairs at some point during the season. I hope so. I'm down. Like, push him down the stairs, kick him in the face, be a little ruthless. I don't care. But is there a character? Is there a scene from Mon Mothma, or something you really feel like you want to see from her this season more so than anything else? It can be something we know is established in canon. It can be something new that you would like to see. Is there anything out there that really strikes you as I really want to see this from Mon Mothma this season?
I think what I want to see is how she becomes a good leader for the rebellion, in the sense that we know she has like the oratory skills and the intellect to be a senator, but she feels a little ineffectual, and that's kind of not her fault, but like, she doesn't seem strong-willed outwardly, and she kind of can't because of the Empire. So I would love to see her put her foot down and go, you know what? Like, it's going to happen when she gives that speech, but I would love to see the arc of her first time in the rebellion. Like, she lands and steps foot on Yavin 4.
You're talking like maybe with like leaders of other cells.
Yes, she has to figure out how to like actually act out in the open, because she's been doing subterfuge for decades. So like, how do you do this now that you can just do anything you want? Like, I would love to see
And then
her
the power
arc.
structure of the rebellion itself, where you have all these different leaders, the council, and we know that Mothma, we know that Bail,
Senator
their
Pomlo.
voices speak pretty loud, but we also know that Mothma and Rogue One is like, without, full support of the council, we can't send a mission out to Scarif or something like that, So her hands are tied, but there is a level of, she is the leader of the rebellion in many ways. So I agree with you. I would love to see, we've seen her speeches to the galaxy. What does her leadership look like on a smaller scale? We know she becomes the Chancellor of the Republic, but being the Chancellor of a vast republic, or being the Senator of a vast republic, is very different than being, a leader of a rebellion force in a state of war. That's very different.
Yeah.
So I would love to see that as well. Yeah, Senator Chuchi shows up. We are
Hey,
the amount of times I'm going to tweet, we've won. We stay winning. If Senator Chuchi shows up, I will lose it. This is a great line that Oscar brought up. My favorite Mon Mothma line is, "I learned from Palpatine, don't miss the knife at your throat while focusing the stone in my hand."
Yeah.
I think it might be I think it's focusing on the stone in my hand, you miss the knife in my throat or something. It might be reversed, but same thing.
Yeah. And that's in episode 6 too.
Oh, so for me, if I had to pick one Mon Mothma thing, I love what you said. That would probably be like up there for me. I would say. So if I'm trying to pick something that's a little different, it might be seeing. I'm excited to see her and Forrest Whitaker face to face. I think they're gonna have a face to face interaction, because those are two. That's unstoppable force meets immovable object. I mean, Mon Mothma is fierce in her own way, just like Saw is absolutely fierce in his own, and they have completely different ideologies in how to wage this war against the Empire.
They couldn't be more different.
And we know that there's the showdown with Saw Skypes in. Oh, rest in peace, Skype, by the way. Rest in peace, Skype, by the way. But when he drops in via his hologram and his projection and calls her out, and they have the shouting match. But that's after he's pretty much left and he's no longer a part of the rebellion. I want to see them face to face, have it out, and on screen. That's something that that I want to see. And Manslayer goes, "That's probably how Saul lost the legs in a long." Oh man, Luke, that wraps it up for us, I think, this evening. That was fun. It's a fun conversation, as always. Everyone, we'll be recording the next episode of the Timeline Show, which is going to be over the middle or young adult novel Out of the Shadows. Luke's ready to go. It's up to me to finish my reread of this. I need to wrap that one up. Hopefully we'll get that out this weekend. If it doesn't come out Saturday or Sunday, you can probably find it on Monday or Tuesday. It'll come out in the next 4 days. I'm going to lock that in. It's coming out in the next 4 days. Don't hate me if it doesn't. You can always check us out every Thursday night at 10 o'clock Eastern time for Star Wars Newsnet Live. We'll get back. We'll get some Monday, Tuesday pods out for you. Timeline Show back on the weekends. We'll get back in a normal schedule here very soon. Be checking out Star Wars Newsnet for all your Star Wars updates, news, and needs. We're excited for Star Wars Celebration coming up. Hopefully there's some fun stuff that's coming out. I recommend going and reading Miguel's article from his newsletter piece every Sunday. The guy from Another Week in a Galaxy Far, Far Away, where he lamented a little bit over some things that are going on with the High Republic. So go ahead and do that. Manslayer, if you want some like timeline order podcast to listen to, you can go check out episode 1 of the Timeline Show, where we get into every little thing, so you can kind of look through what we've been doing in the order that we went through there. So feel free to check that out. Everyone, also, if you're going to Star Wars Celebration and you need some help, you're curious what to do, what that looks like, our guy Chris wrote a great article that's up that you could check out. It's kind of everything you need to know for Star Wars celebrations. He goes every year. He does it all, VIP, all the stuff. So he's the guy to talk to about maybe how to plan your trip accordingly in terms of the convention itself. Luke, any final words for us?
Anyone going to Celebration? I'm super jealous. Wish I could go. But have so much fun, and we're all going to be watching Andor together at some point. So Star Wars is awesome.
I just love the build up. I love this hype and build up and excitement. It's gonna come and go so fast, and it's gonna be so sad, but great. It's
so fast,
especially when we know that peak is coming. Oh, it's so good, so good. All right, for Light and Life, everyone, remember we are all the Republic.